Welcome to Asia Outlook. I'm Melody and I'm here to report the top stories from around Asia. South Korea confirmed 4 more cases of the new coronavirus on Thursday, bringing the total to 23 in the country. The new patients are 3 Koreans and 1 Chinese citizen. 2 patients reported on Wednesday were believed to have become infected in Singapore. South Korea says it is not immediately tightening entry restrictions into the country. CGTN Jack Barton has more from Seoul.
This week, South Korea put in place travel restrictions on all foreigners who have travelled to China's Hebei province over the past fortnight, as well as halting visa-free travel to the popular tourist destination of Jeju Island. But Seoul has so far resisted calls to introduce a broader ban that would target visitors from China outside of the hardest hit areas or from any other country where the coronavirus is currently present. On Wednesday, health officials indicated further measures might be taken, but said for now the situation in Korea, as well as China's ongoing response, would be monitored. South Korea disinfected a food market in the capital on Wednesday as a precautionary measure aimed at preventing the further spread of coronavirus. Seoul officials also inspected restaurants for illegal food, particularly wild animals, while also providing information to people in likely infection hotspots about preventative measures. South Korea's President Moon Jae-in also visited a public health center and was briefed on the quarantine system that has been put in place since the outbreak began. On Wednesday, South Korea's Prime Minister said a plan was underway to support exporters, the tourism sector and small businesses to help minimize the negative impact caused by the virus. The country's public health agency has screened hundreds of people and quarantined more than 170, while almost 1,000 people who might have become infected are in self-quarantine and monitored carefully for signs of the illness. On Wednesday, Hyundai Motors became the first major international car maker to announce a suspension of production due to supply line disruption resulting from the outbreak. Officials here say they will seek a meeting between the foreign ministers of South Korea and China at an upcoming security summit in Germany to discuss potential joint measures to fight the outbreak. Jack Barton, CGTN, Seoul.
Pakistan says it has no current plans to evacuate its nationals living in China. Pakistan's foreign minister said his country's people will firmly stand together with their Chinese counterparts in the fight against the novel coronavirus outbreak. Daniel Khan has more.
Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on Health, Dr. Zafar Mirza, has said that Pakistan government has decided against the repatriation of Pakistanis stuck in China. The decision followed a meeting between Pakistan Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, where Wang Yi assured that taking care of Pakistani citizens was a priority for China's government. The World Health Organization has declared the situation as an emergency of international concern, and the health advisor said that Pakistan, as a responsible nation, wants to take steps that ensure the safety of maximum people, saying the decision is in the larger interest of the region, the world, and the country that Pakistan does not evacuate them now. He warned that if Pakistan acts irresponsibly and evacuates people from there, the epidemic will spread all over the world like wildfire. The advisor said that those Pakistani citizens who are stranded in China will not be allowed to return until they have been quarantined for 14 days and are found to be free of the disease. Though the announcement has been met with anger and strong criticism from the opposition, the government has decided to stay firm on its decision. Daniel Khan, CGTN, Islamabad.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called for Canadians to unite and caution against discrimination as fears of a coronavirus epidemic spread. Let's take a listen.
I know it's been a tough start of the year for many of you. To be frank, headlines over the past weeks have been hard, and I'm sure many of you are worried about loved ones overseas. Just like here today, we need to support each other and stay united. Let me be clear. There is no place in our country for discrimination driven by fear or misinformation. This is not something Canadians will ever stand for.
The coronavirus outbreak has brought increasing reports of racial abuse against Chinese communities in the UK and Europe.
I guess it's really upsetting and it feels hurtful that people see me as a threat.
Heidi Chow was on a train in London last week with her husband and children when she noticed a man leave the empty carriage they were on to move to another one.
But because I look Chinese or from East Asia, therefore I must have the coronavirus. And so it's quite hurtful to think that people are thinking that of me when I go into a room or when I go onto public transport.
She says the same thing has happened to her a number of times in the past few weeks, with people trying to avoid her in public spaces.
The risk of me having coronavirus is the same as any other non-Chinese person in London or in the UK, because I haven't been to China in the last 2 weeks. In fact, I've only been to China probably for a day trip 25 years ago.
As international concern over the coronavirus grows, it's fueling reports of discrimination against Chinese people, including here in Europe. It's led the UN to speak out on the issue, saying no amount of fear can excuse hatred. The UK government has also urged people to avoid any hysteria.
The rejection that this whole House demonstrates to any racism and insensitivity towards the Chinese community here, or indeed visitors here of Chinese origin, because that will not help us tackle this disease.
Some members of the UK's Chinese community say they've witnessed a rise in racist behaviour recently that's coincided with the spread of this outbreak. But many also say this isn't anything new. It seems dealing with racism has become a normal part of life for some East Asians, even those who were born and raised in this country.
For 20 years, Dr. Diana Ye has been studying the history of Chinese people on these shores. She says the coronavirus has been racialized as something specifically linked to China.
I think we've seen this time and time again throughout history. There's always been a kind of latent racism, I would say, against the Chinese in Britain as globally, with yellow peril from the 19th century, straight up to, we can think about SARS 2003.
Social media is also playing a role. In France and other parts of Europe where cases of racism have been reported, the hashtag I'm Not a Virus has led to shows of support for victims of xenophobia.
It's playing as an evil a role in terms of spreading fear as it is in creating forms of solidarity.
With cases of the virus now reaching the tens of thousands, focus is on containing this deadly disease. But thousands of miles away, even those with no symptoms are feeling the effects.
A Turkish airliner skidded off the runway, crashed into a ditch and broke apart during landing at Sabiha Gökçen Airport due to bad weather. At least 3 people died and over 170 were injured. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Cambodian Prime Minister Samdech Techo Hun Sen at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing on Wednesday. Xi Jinping appreciated Cambodia's firm support of China's fight against the coronavirus epidemic, calling Prime Minister Hun Sen's visit a demonstration of close ties and mutual trust between the two countries. Let's take a look.
当前呢，中国政府和人民正在全力的抗击新型冠状病毒感染的肺炎疫情，而在这个特殊的时刻，柬埔寨政府和人民是同中国政府和人民站在一起的。今天我看你特意到中国来访问，这也是 生动地诠释了我们之间这种患难与共的终结民营共同体这样的一个核心要义，我对此深表赞赏。
មានគោលដៅ3សំខាន់ទី1គឺបង្ហាញពីសាមគ្គីភាពជាមួយរដ្ឋាភិបាលនិងប្រជាជនចិននៅក្នុងកលៈទេសៈដ៏លំបាកនេះគឺចង់ផ្ដល់ឲ្យសារទៅកាន់ប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាឲ្យមានការជឿជាក់កុំមានការភ័យខ្លាចព្រោះខ្ញុំបានបញ្ជាក់ទៅកាន់ប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាថាជំងឺពិតប្រាកដមិនមែនកូវីដ -19 ទេជំងឺពិតប្រាកដគឺការភ័យខ្លាច
This is Asia Outlook broadcasting from Myanmar International Radio. You can visit our website at mradio.com.mm. You can also listen to our radio programs live on the website. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has named 2 new ministers to his cabinet. Keith Pith, a well-known supporter of nuclear power and the coal industry, will become the country's Minister for Mining and Resources. David Littleproud, the current Minister for Water Resources, will combine this role with the responsibility of overseeing the country's agricultural sector. Bridget McKenzie resigned from her post as Minister of Agriculture on Sunday after a sports funding scandal. An independent audit found money from a $100 million Australian sports development fund was used to target votes ahead of last year's federal election. Overseas Chinese and people from Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Germany, Mexico, Russia, South Africa, Spain, the United States, and the UK share their ideas about the measures taken against the coronavirus outbreak and send their best wishes to people in Wuhan. Let's take a listen.
I've heard it's in a small province in the middle of China. It started about Christmas time.
I know it's spreading. 现在的病例持续在增加.
It's from the wild animals.
It's probably one of the most important and deadly viruses that are out there currently in 2020.
我母亲在国内是一名医护工作者，所以我知道现在国内的情况还是挺紧张的。
现在的情况比较严重，人与人之间呢传播的速度比较快。
现在的它的感染率比较高，致死率比较低。
It's the first time that I'm hearing about, and I'm feeling a bit scared.
Ну, считаю, конечно, это серьезно очень, и сожалею о том, что в Китае это происходит с людьми.
我觉得也是很负责任做法。这个封城，许多外国媒体报道一些什么有对人权侵犯这些东西，我觉得都是胡说八道。我觉得还是这个做法是对所有人的负责，是对武汉当地人和我们全国人民乃至全世界人民的最大的负责。
Visto la situación, o sea, por lo menos mientras no se sepa exactamente cómo controlar el virus, pues inicialmente tal vez no queda más remedio por ahora al menos.
控制人员流动，这像是一个比较原始、比较基础的办法，但是对于这样子大规模的疫情的时候，其实也是最有效的办法。
很感谢武汉人民做出的牺牲，为全国人民。
I want to congratulate them for the great work that they're doing. Try to contain the virus for it not to spread across the other region.
И думаю, что будет все хорошо, и вылечат, и победим этот вирус.
Don't get panic and have hope and faith. Everything's gonna be okay.
我想对武汉的医护人员说，请你们保护好自己，有你们在，我们会很安心。
Don't forget that the whole world is actually supporting you guys, and the best people are, researching for the cure.
I hope that most of the people in Wuhan can have a safe, happy Lunar Chinese New Year, and I hope everyone is safe.
I wish you all very, very good health and strength and supporting each other, because it's very difficult when one becomes ill. It's also hard for others to understand the challenges of fatigue or physical pain or fear and anxiety. So I just wish that everybody be supportive and helpful.
大家记得一定要戴口罩，还有记得一定就是出门回家的时候一定要消毒。武汉加油，中国加油！
武汉加油！
武汉加油
Ánimo, Wuhan.
Y buena suerte, Wuhan.
武汉人民加油！
武汉加油！
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 Mayor of Florence, Dario Nardella, has suggested residents hug Chinese people to encourage them in the fight against the novel coronavirus. Meanwhile, a member of Associazione Union Giovanni Italio Senese, a Chinese society in Italy aimed at promoting friendship between people in the two countries, called for respect for novel coronavirus patients during a street demonstration. "I am not a virus, I am a human, eradicate the prejudice," quote to quote. Let's take a look at this heartwarming gesture. Racism aside, many in China feel the coronavirus has become the latest reason for the Trump administration to target China.
To most people, it's a global health crisis, but for the U.S. Commerce Secretary, it's a potential opportunity to boost the economy.
So I think it will help to accelerate the return of jobs to North America, some to U.S., probably some to Mexico as well.
The comment is merely the latest example of what Beijing sees as the Trump administration's hostility. By the end of January, the U.S. raised its travel advisory for China to its highest level 4, do not travel. Moreover, Washington continues to urge its citizens to try to depart by commercial means. And for those remaining in China, the precautions officially advised include not only avoiding crowds, but also stockpiling food. The White House has declared a public health emergency and is banning all foreign nationals who have been to China in the previous 14 days from entering the U.S. In its response to the U.S. stance, China says it understands and respects quarantine measures at border entry points, but the American reaction has been over the top. The World Health Organization is not recommending taking any measures that it says will unnecessarily interfere with international trade or travel.
The speed with which China detected the outbreak, isolated the virus, sequenced the genome, and shared it with WHO and the world are very impressive and beyond words. So is China's commitment to transparency and to supporting other countries. In many ways, China is actually setting a new standard for outbreak response, and it's not an exaggeration.
But as the outbreak continues to worsen, China says it feels its call for international solidarity has yet to be heard by the Trump administration.
A growing number of Iranian university students coming to the United States for their education only to hit major roadblocks. More than a dozen students with valid visas and big dreams were turned back and deported just after arriving at U.S. airports in Boston, Detroit, Atlanta, to name a few.
The stories are making headlines across the United States. A growing number of Iranian university students coming to the U.S. for their education, only to hit major roadblocks. More than a dozen with valid visas and big dreams turned back and deported just hours after arriving at U.S. airports in Boston, Detroit, Atlanta, to name a few. For Iranian students, getting that U.S. visa is no easy task.
These students their applications go through multiple U.S. agencies, some not even known to the public. And oftentimes these security checks, which can take various forms, take months.
Despite this deep vetting process and approval, students are getting pulled aside at U.S. airports, questioned by border agents, in some cases held for hours, and eventually deported with little explanation.
it seems to be part of a singling out of multiple Iranian students.
It happened to Michigan State University PhD student Alireza Yazdani. His lawyer, Bradley May, says Yazdani had a valid student visa and was vetted by the State Department. Customs and Border Protection says Yazdani was deemed inadmissible, but did not say why. May says his client gave up hours after questioning and signed an order withdrawing his application for admission. Mays was not aware of this sketch on Yazdani's Facebook page from 2013, but he says it could have played a role in his deportation. Customs officials, while not commenting on individual cases, say there are various grounds for inadmissibility, including security concerns. They also say a valid visa does not guarantee U.S. entry. A week earlier, protests outside Boston's Logan Airport to stop the deportation of another student, Shahab Dehqani. The 23-year-old economics major was returning to Northeastern University, but told his visa had been revoked. Despite a court order from a federal judge, he was deported. Media reports cite Department of Homeland Security as saying Dehqani's family has suspected links to the militant group Hezbollah, something his lawyer denies. An immigration lawyer tells CGTN if there were such links, they would have been discovered while his visa was being vetted.
They'll refuse to issue a visa on the slightest pretense, on the slightest doubt about the student's eligibility for the category and about their security issues. So it's really odd that this is happening because of that extreme vetting.
According to the New York Times, at least 16 Iranian students have been turned back from U.S. airports since August amid rising tensions between Iran and the U.S. And it's not just students in airports. There are reports of more than 60 U.S. citizens of Iranian descent and permanent residents held and questioned for hours at a U.S.-Canada land border. Among them, an Iranian-born mother of two and her husband and two children.
As soon as they realized that we were born in Iran, they lead us to the office and they held us there for 5 hours. They asked many questions, many personal questions like our Facebook accounts and like my parents' full name, birth date, and my uncles who are in U.S. They asked about my cousins, everything.
Our office has spoken with a number of people who were detained, and in speaking with the groups that are here, is that there were certainly people of Iranian American descent, almost all, as we know, U.S. citizens and permanent residents, who were subjected to, I wouldn't call it just additional scrutiny because they had their passports taken away, they were not allowed to leave, so they were held in some form of detention at the Peace Arch in border crossing in Blaine.
CBP denied there was a directive to target Iranian Americans with this tweet calling the reports false. But a leaked and widely circulated internal memo from U.S. Customs and Border Protection appears to show officers were indeed directed to vet people meeting a certain criteria, including those of Iranian descent and individuals who had traveled to Iran.
The bigger picture here has been the persistent targeting of Muslims and people from Iran by the Trump administration, and which is really just directly contrary to American values and to what this country should be about.
Customs and Border Protection says the matter is under investigation, but insists travelers cannot be singled out based on their nationality alone, a claim many Iranian Americans say they simply don't believe.
With 2 newborn babies now infected with the novel coronavirus, a German expert expressed his opinion on the possibility of mother-to-child transmission during pregnancy.
This is not an unexpected event. So we know from other viruses that they can be transmitted from the mother to the newborn, for example. This is very common, or how to say, a complication in the seasonal flu, and everybody is aware of this. So if this happens also for the new coronavirus, we have to take measures to prevent the transmission of the coronavirus to the newborn. As we know from influenza, so the seasonal flu, it might cause very severe infections in the newborn because they're very vulnerable. So we have to take measures that the new coronavirus may not be transmitted to the newborn.
This is Asia Alad broadcasting from Myanmar International Radio. On FM, make sure you catch us on 96.1 FM in Yangon, 96.5 in Mandalay, and 96.7 in Naypyidaw. You can also download MRI Radio app on both iOS and Android devices for your own convenience. Wuhan officials say 14 medical workers who got infected at the start of the outbreak have recovered. The last 5 of them have been discharged. They contracted the virus while treating one infected patient at Wuhan Union Hospital. Their case is said to have been used as primary evidence in confirming human-to-human transmission of the new coronavirus. FGM, or female genital mutilation, is a horrible discriminatory practice with no health benefits whatsoever for girls and women. Every year, February 6 is observed as the International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM. There are 50 countries, mostly in Africa, where women are subjected to it. But female genitalia mutilation also takes place in Asia's predominantly Muslim countries, such as Indonesia. CGTN's Silikan Aluwala has more from Jakarta.
Like many new mothers in Indonesia, Hapsa Oktaviani still believes female circumcision is mandatory. Hapsa circumcised her daughter when she was just 1 week old.
My midwife advised me to do it because she said it helps with the cleanliness of the reproductive organs. But more than that, my faith is important. I was circumcised as a child and I am following my family's traditions.
Those traditions are the reason why almost half of girls under 11 years old in Indonesia are circumcised. In 2014, the health ministry stated the practice is not a medical procedure and has little to no health benefits, but it's still common in Indonesia, especially in the Muslim community. Dr. Baharudin believes Indonesia's religious and cultural beliefs cannot be compared to those carried out in other countries.
As a medical professional, I agree that there are no health benefits to this. The problem is Indonesia is being categorized with Africa in the World Health Organization's map, and that is not fair because there are 4 types of mutilation according to WHO. As far as I know, Indonesia practices the mildest form of it, and though it's not beneficial to health, it is also not harmful. It is very different from Africa's practices.
Maria Ulfa has been campaigning to end this practice, saying its history is problematic and heavily rooted in patriarchy.
The government needs to understand that this is a dangerous practice. It doesn't matter if it is symbolic. It reduces the dignity of a woman because the ideology behind it is to decrease women's sexual needs. The government tried to ban this practice years ago, but it was met with resistance from religious groups.
Maria says the government and the Muslim community should work together to understand that in today's day and age, female circumcision should not be necessary anymore under Islamic law. Silkina Aluwalia, CGTN, Jakarta.
The closed city has made many people unable to go home to take care of pets. Wuhan Small Animal Protection Association, Shenyangmen, takes care of small animals that are stranded at home. 1,000 or 2,000 small animals will be helped. Let's take a look. that's all we have for today's Asia Outlook on MI Radio. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back next week. Until next time.